You hear those horns? You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome everyone to episode 22 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. It's your main man, T-Squared. Tristain Thomas here with you. Thank you for joining us. Great to be here this week. We have a lot to discuss. Now, we're going to do something a little bit different this week here on Toss. Usually we split the show up into two very distinct segments. We have the State of the State, and then we have the Toss Sweep. There will be no Toss Sweep this week because sometimes there is so much to speak about within your own area that you just need the entire show to go over it. This is Wisconsin's State of the State as far as sports go. And that's what the entire show is going to be about. It's going to be about the state of our state. What are our teams doing? What moves are they making? How are they building for the future? What is going on in the state of Wisconsin as far as sports go? We're about to get into that. So let's hop right into it. State of the state. And let us start off in Milwaukee, Wisconsin with the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, I am in agreement with a lot of people. The All-Star break is too damn long. And don't get me started on the All-Star game itself. The All-Star game itself was god-awful. Usually, you see all the highlights, you see all the fancy passes, the crossovers, the crazy shots like Stephen Curry's three-pointer from half court and all that. You see that within the first three quarters. The last quarter, the fourth quarter, guys get serious. They start playing some defense. They start making good moves on offense. They play to win the game, and it seems as if that same competitive fire was not there. It's kind of a letdown, really. And side note, and I know I said there wasn't going to be a tall sweep. We're going to talk about Wisconsin stuff, but I got to get this in. Everyone who was out there being a prisoner of the moment, saying that Saturday night's dunk contest was the greatest dunk contest of all time, stop it. Just stop it. Nothing is going to beat Money and Neek. That's Michael Jordan and Dominique Wilkins, for those of you who are too young to remember that dunk contest and think that this is the greatest one of all time. There have been many dunk contests better than this one. Now, was this one the most creative in most recent years and the most fun? Absolutely it was. Yes, it was, but it was not the greatest dunk contest of all time. Y'all need to stop it. Go back and look at other dunk contests, put them up next to that one, then you come back and talk to me. But until then, stop being a prisoner of the moment. This was not the greatest dunk contest. But I digress. Let's get back to State of the State and the Milwaukee Bucks. The All-Star break is far too long. These guys haven't gotten back to work yet. Chris Middleton, he was in a three-point contest, really didn't show that well. Jabari Parker, he had his moments in the Rising Stars game. His squad won. Now it's time to get back to work. But who exactly are they going to be going to work with or even for? Because last week we spoke on Toss about those guys, Chris Middleton and Jabari Parker, possibly being on the trading block, along with two names that we are really curious to see what happens with, Greg Monroe and Michael Carter-Williams. Well, according to many reports, it seems as if the Bucks are taking all of that back. Hey, Jabari is not available. Chris Middleton is not available. Greg Monroe is not available. Giannis is not available. Which we all figured that was the case anyway, but there was a report that said, hey, it would take some type of crazy deal, but maybe we'll listen to deals for offers for him too. But he's not available. They have taken back what they said. Oh, these guys aren't on the trading block anymore, even though you still hear reports that the Pelicans are trying to get Greg Monroe from the Bucks. The Bucks are adamant about keeping Greg Monroe and Jabari Parker. The one guy who everybody is universal in saying and reporting that is absolutely gettable is MCW, which we all figured he would be the most expendable player on this entire roster. Here's the thing. There's another report saying that he was told by the Bucks, Michael Carter-Williams were talking, that he would not be traded. But he was told the same thing last season by the 76ers. So do you really believe that? No. I don't think you believe that. Back to the point that I was about to go to. What in the hell are the Bucks doing? Can anybody explain to me what exactly is their plan here? Can anybody explain to me what direction they're going in? Are they going to be a defensive ball club? Are they going to be a fast-breaking offensive ball club that is able to lock you down when they need to? What direction are they going in? I have no clue whatsoever what the hell they're trying to do. I don't think they have a clue on what the hell they're trying to do, because it's all well and good. You're talking all these trades, but for what? You're not going to the playoffs this season. Okay. And ever since you acquired Michael Carter Williams, you were 10 games above 500 when you acquired him. You're far underneath 500 since then. He has not worked. And maybe they're realizing that, hey, this isn't working. We've had a year with him in our system. It just simply does not work with him being here. Who are you going to trade him for? And why would you do any kind of trades when you do not have a direction in which you want to go in? I get doing a trade that's going to help you in the future. I get doing a trade that's going to help you right now because you feel you're very close to the playoffs and you just need that one player to put you over the top and get you into the playoffs. But you're not in a position to make a run like that. And you really haven't figured out what in the hell you want to build as far as on the court for the future. So why make any trades? And Michael Carter Williams being your most expendable piece is not exactly a good thing because he's not going to garner a whole lot of trade value for you. You're going to get one player. It's not going to be a big time frontline player. It's going to be, B, C level player. They can get it done for you, but they're not a superstar. You're not going to get any draft picks or anything else out of the deal unless you really know how to talk. But why make any kind of trades? If you really are interested in building your team for the future and whatever direction that goes into, why not package him with one of your picks? Or a pick, or whatever the case is, and trying to see what you can get over the summer. I don't understand why you would be in a position to be trading anybody when you don't have any clue what direction you want to go in. You're not in a position to make the playoffs. And the one guy who you've made extremely gettable brings you no real trade value because they've seen his tape. At some point, you have to understand that a guy is what he is with you. What Michael Carter Williams is consistently inconsistent. That's the bottom line, folks. We've got a year of game tape on him in a Bucks uniform. You've seen it up close and personal. He has not added a thing to this ball club. Everybody starts salivating when he had that 18-point and 13 assist game, or when he had that 30-plus point game with the assists and the rebounds. And he shows you little pops here and there on what he could possibly bring to the table. And you just start salivating like, are we going to get that tomorrow night or in the next game and the next game and the next game? And then he disappoints. He comes up with a 2-assist game like he did against the Trailblazers. Was absolutely a non-factor offensively. He can't hit an open jumper to save his life. It just frustrates you. His turnover, assist to turnover ratio is 1-to-1. This is the frustrating part about it because you see the potential in him, but he cannot bring it every single night. That is the bottom line, folks. We saw it in Philly. We saw it here in Milwaukee up close and personal. He will forever be a consistently inconsistent player. That is what he has been in the league ever since he's been in the league. At some point, you have to realize that and cut bait. And I think that's exactly what the Milwaukee Bucks are doing. But they had no business making that trade to begin with. It was a gigantic swing and a miss. The numbers don't lie. His assist to turnover ratio is horrible. His shooting percentage is terrible. The winning percentage since you've acquired him is awful, far under 500. But the thing is, if you're going to make a trade, you have to have a plan in place. And they don't have a plan in place. They don't have a vision for what they want to build on the court. And everybody likes to make the argument, oh, well, how come they don't have a vision? They've got Jabari Parker. They've got Giannis. They've got Greg Monroe. Okay, you just named all three players. Tell me what type of game they're going to play on the court. How are they going to play offensively? Are they going to be an inside-out team? Are they going to be a fast break team? Tell me what they're going to do defensively. Are they going to be a zone team? Are they going to continue to play the shell defense that Jason Kidd likes to play? Just because you have players does not mean you have a direction. That is what some people have to learn. You can have all the players in the world, but if the system is not working, if the philosophy is not working with those players, you have no direction. And right now they have no direction, no vision. I don't see what the hell they're trying to do on the court with these acquisitions or any future acquisitions that they make. When are we going to get a clear vision on what these guys are trying to build on the court? We thought we had one last season. They were a defensive team. Their defense led into offense. They were not a good three-point shooting team. They were not really a good perimeter shooting team at all. It's one of their downfalls. Maybe they need to go back to that and address those spots. And you thought you did with acquisitions like Grievous Vasquez. Rashad Vaughn doesn't get enough playing time, but you can see he's going to be a very good shooter in this league, but he doesn't get enough time because Jason Kidd likes to play mad scientist with all of his lineups and not have any consistency with anybody, which is another problem. If you're going to make any kind of trade, you need to have a vision in place. You need to have a direction in place, and they don't have it. So what is the point of making any kind of trade right now? It's almost like there's two different philosophies going on with this team, Jason Kidd's and John Hammond's. And because it clashes so much, it just doesn't work. It gives you the record that you have now with your 10 games below 500. You're not going to the playoffs. You have no direction, no vision for what type of team you're trying to build. That's what you get. This is what happens. And this is why a lot of people are mad and frustrated and really decide not to get behind the Bucks, because this is what always happens. You have one good winning year and then you'll drop off the map for the next 3-4 seasons. Now, look, I'm not one of those bandwagon fans. I stay in it. Whether we're winning, whether we're losing, I'm always a Bucks fan. And all my life, I've been a Buck fan, and I am going to say this with the utmost love and respect. You need to get your damn act together, because this ain't working. A shiny arena is not going to fix what your product you're putting on the court. Rebranding of jerseys and logos is not going to fix the fact that you guys have two different philosophies going on behind the scenes, and it's making a horrible product on the court that people cannot get behind. You really need to get this garbage together, because that's exactly what you're putting onto that court. You're putting garbage onto that court. Now, I'm not saying individual players are garbage. I'm not saying this guy, and that guy is garbage. I'm saying as a whole, the way that they're playing, the way that the coaching is gone, the acquisitions, the transactions that you're making, it's all garbage, because you don't have a winning record. You're not going to make the playoffs. You're not going to go upward in a natural progression, which is what everybody expected you to do this season. You're regressing. You're going back to 30 years of mediocrity. And that is what frustrates people. But I've already said too much. Let's get back to Michael Carter-Williams here for a second, because the fact is, I really think he's going to get traded by the Thursday deadline. That's February 18th. I think he's going to be gone. But who are they trying to trade him for? The two names that continue to pop up when it comes to trading Michael Carter-Williams are Ty Lawson down in Houston and Jeff Teague in Atlanta, who people forget. Jeff Teague would already be a Milwaukee Buck had the Atlanta Hawks decided not to match the offer sheet that Milwaukee signed him to a couple of seasons ago. Jeff Teague is a guy that the Bucks have always wanted. Could have had him a couple seasons ago, again, if the Atlanta Hawks didn't decide to match that offer sheet that was signed. So maybe he goes there. Ty Lawson, what can he really bring to the Milwaukee Bucks? Can he shoot a little bit better than Michael Carter Williams? Yes. Is he fast? Yes. Can he get to the cup? Yes. It isn't a move that really excites me. Quite honestly, neither is Jeff Teague, and I'm not downing either Ty Lawson or Jeff Teague. But what I'm saying is the fact that if they have no direction, then why even make the trade? What are these players going to be doing? How are they going to make your team better? And are they long-term solutions at the position? Because I don't think anybody you acquire for Michael Carter Williams this season, if you decide to pull the trigger and trade him, are going to be long-term plans in Milwaukee. So why even make the trade? I could sit here and ask a multitude of questions like that, but I'm not in the front office of Milwaukee Bucks. But quite honestly, if I were, I still wouldn't have a clue as to what direction we're going in, because they don't have a clue as to what direction that they're going in. In addition to the product being tough to watch and frustrating to watch, this front office and the way that they're acquiring players and the fact they have no idea what direction and what type of team they're trying to build is equally as frustrating. Still no direction, no vision overall. So we're going to have to watch. We're going to have to watch this the trade deadline very, very closely. We're going to have to watch Milwaukee Bucks to see what they do very, very closely, who they're going to trade. There's a multitude of guys on the bench that will probably end up getting traded. I really feel that there's still going to be a move by the Milwaukee Bucks. For what? I don't know. We've asked that question about 50 million times already. But it's going to be interesting to see what kind of team they're trying to build. And I think when they trade Michael Carter Williams, when they trade him, the player that they acquire, it'll kind of hopefully give us a glimpse of what kind of team they're trying to become. Are they trying to be a fast break team? Are they trying to be a half-court team? I think we'll find all that out in the next couple of days here before the trading deadline hits. Continuing on this State of the State episode here on Toss, we're going to get into Milwaukee Brewers baseball because pitchers and catchers report later this week. It's getting close to that time, y'all. It's getting close to that time. Baseball's coming back, spring training. Before you know it, opening day will be here. We'll all be outside enjoying brats on the grill, have a few adult beverages, enjoyed responsibly, of course. So that time of the year is coming. And what the Bucks are doing are trying to own the future, but it's not quite working because they don't have a vision. The Brewers are really in the same mode of rebuild as the Bucks are, but I think they need to flip-flop their logos or their slogans because the Brewers are really the ones who are owning the future right now. David Stearns, Dealin' Dave, made his 9th trade since taking over as GM for the Milwaukee Brewers. His 9th trade since taking over as GM for the Milwaukee Brewers. He hasn't even been on the job a year yet, y'all. 9 trades, and they have been phenomenal trades. One organization has the Brewers farm system ranked as number 1 in all of baseball. Most others have them in top 5. This is quite a turnaround from the days of Doug Melvin. It really is. They are really stockpiling talent down in the farm system. It is a very exciting time because that was a system that was absolutely decimated and depleted. You could really pull no real major league talent up from there and put on the main roster until David Stearns came around and starts making all of his deals. So I mentioned he made his 9th trade since taking over as the GM of the Milwaukee Brewers. That trade involved Chris Davis, power hitting left fielder, struck out more than he hit. Decent defensively, but not great. But he was traded to the Oakland A's for catcher Jacob Nottingham and right-hand pitcher, I love this name, Bubba Derby. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right. I don't know if it's Derby or Derby, but Bubba Derby. It's a great, great, great name. This is a fantastic trade. Mentioned it on the Toss Facebook page. That's facebook.com/TOnSportsShow. I mentioned that I liked this trade. But what I didn't mention is why I like this trade. So let me give you guys a couple of reasons why I like this Chris Davis trade. First reason is the fact that it's going to clear the clutter in the outfield. You've got some guys in that outfield that are candidates to get full-time playing time out there, and now you've cleared the way for that to happen. You moved Carlos Gomez last season. You moved Chris Davis in the offseason this season. Ryan Braun's over in right field. Now you can put him back over into left field. You can put Domingo Santana, fantastic young player, in right, who has a far better arm than Ryan Braun. Far better. I'm talking leaps and bounds better than him. That automatically right there improves your defense. And you can give those guys full time. You could put Reimer Liriano, possibly put him in center field. We don't know what they're going to do with that. But you have significantly upgraded your outfield defense already by moving Braun, which that move is already being discussed, moving him back to left field, putting Santana over in right field. You've already bumped up your defense right there. You've already beefed it up right there. That's what you want. And we'll get to that vision in a little bit. On top of that, you get a real catching prospect in your farm system, which is something you have not had possibly since Jonathan Lucroy. Now, we all know the news on Lucroy. He's talked about if the Brewers are going to be rebuilding, then he should probably be traded. And I didn't really go deep into those comments. But sidebar, I don't have a problem with him saying that because, look, he's 30 or approaching 30. And we don't know how long this Brewers rebuild is going to take. It could be 3, 4, 5 seasons. By that time, he's 33, 34, 35 years old. He's no longer in his prime. He's no longer an everyday catcher. He's not someone that can really go out there and contribute to a team, a winning team, and possibly win a World Series. I think that's where he was coming from on that. It's the fact that he wants to go and he wants to win, and he wants to win big. He wants to win championships, and I don't have a problem with that. It could be anybody who says that. You know, we start griping about money, and in some cases, players have a right because they're way overperforming their contract, and teams are known to be cheap, and they just don't want to pay for the type of play that they're getting, and it's ridiculous. But in this case, it's not about the money. He's talking about strictly winning. And I don't have a problem with him wanting to go somewhere to win and not wait out a rebuilding process. I don't think that's, I believe that's a legitimate gripe that he has. Will he get traded? Who knows? David Stearns has been an enigma for the longest time. We're starting to figure out his vision for what type of team he wants. We'll get to that in a little bit. But he just feels like he is in his prime. He can go and help a team now and win. And he just doesn't see that in Milwaukee for the next 3, 4, maybe 5 seasons. So I don't have a problem with Jonathan Lucroy's comments whatsoever. Should he have gone public with them? Probably not. But that's the honesty and the candor that you get from Jonathan Lucroy. But you get a real catching prospect in Nottingham into that farm system, a guy who can possibly succeed a Jonathan Lucroy. So this move has really done a lot for your franchise, both immediately on the main roster and long term in your farm system, and eventually it's going to help your main roster. And this is what you need. You have to be able to replenish lost major league talent with the talent you have in your farm system. And the Brewers have not been able to do that in multiple seasons. Now, we all know The losing that the Brewers went through to go and get guys like Prince Fielder, who ended up leaving, or Ryan Braun, Ricky Weeks for what he was worth. He was good sometimes, bad other times. Ben Sheets. They went through a lot of losing to get those guys, but they stockpiled their farm system, and then their farm system just got absolutely depleted. They started trading guys away to get other pieces to win now, and it just really depleted the system. And you saw their struggles as a result of that. So now Stearns has really replenished that farm system, and he's really starting to make moves that affect the main roster right now in a positive way. We're starting to see his vision, and the vision that he has. Let's take this trade, for instance, this 9th trade that he just made with Chris Davis. I mentioned before, he was a guy that would hit home runs. He had, 27 this past season, led the ball club, I believe. Power hitter, can hit it out of the park, win you some games, put some runs on the board, was decent defensively. Okay, he wasn't awful, but he wasn't Gold Glove worthy. He was decent, but he couldn't get on base to save his life in the most critical moments. He couldn't get a hit and put the ball in play to save his life. This is what David Stearns wants. He wants guys that can get on base, put the ball in play, get on base, steal a base here, play station to station at times, and to play good defense. And we just mentioned with Chris Davis being traded, you can move Ryan Braun back to left field. You can put Santana over on right. You can put Liriano maybe possibly in center. I don't know if that's their plan or not. But you have, just by moving Braun back to left, putting Santana in right, you have significantly improved your defense right there. Those are moves that are going to work out well, and it's moves that really show you his vision, what he's trying to do. It's really the same recipe as the Kansas City Royals. The world champion, defending World Series champion Kansas City Royals, a team that's been to 2 straight World Series. They have a fantastic defense. They have good pitching. They have guys who put the ball in play. They can play station-to-station baseball. They just do the fundamentals. That never goes out of style, and that is something that does not decline quickly. Power hitters decline, and sometimes they decline quite quickly. And that's what we've had in Milwaukee for multiple seasons, are guys who can just absolutely mash the ball out of the park, but not in the most critical moments. And I know I'm going to get somebody that says, well, they just went to the NLCS in 2011. How can you say that? Well, they got there by the fact that they led I believe they led the major leagues in home runs that year. Okay, it wasn't a station-to-station kind of team. The pitching was decent, fell apart when they went up against the Cardinals in NLCS, but they weren't a station-to-station team. They didn't have a fantastic defense. Defense was decent, but they were a team that mashed the ball out of the park. David Stearns wants guys who can get on base, rather be the walk from being patient, wait for their pitch. If they don't get it, don't swing. More times than not, the ball's going to be out of strike zone. They can put the ball in play. When you put the ball in play, positive things happen. You put the pressure on the defense. Good pitching. Pitchers definitely appreciate a good defense behind them. It makes the game a little bit easier for them, knowing that they have a defense that's not going to go out there and light up the error board. It's a formula that has proven to work. And when you get into postseason, what do they always talk about the most? When it comes down to postseason in the MLB, it comes down to pitching, defense, and timely hitting. The Royals had all of that. And I don't doubt that they can get to a 3rd straight World Series and quite possibly win that one. It is a formula that will never, ever, ever go out of style. It is a formula that does not decline quickly. It's really a smart move by Stearns to try and build a team like that, because it's going to prove to be a move that helps you for a long time. It's going to prove to have longevity. A team that can pitch, a team that can play really good defense, a team that can put the ball in play and get on base and wreak havoc on the base paths. It's a really smart formula, and I'm really glad to finally see a vision, to see a direction in which David Stearns wants to go in. You can't deny the fact that the future is bright for the Milwaukee Brewers with these moves. We have to see what type of team they are when they actually get out to the field and we see them in actual game action. But all these moves and kind of seeing a direction from the enigmatic David Stearns, or Dylan Dave as we're going to start calling him, it is really, really good to see. It really gives you hope in the rebuild and the fact that we can be contenders maybe, like I said, 3, 4, 5 years, but the future is bright for the Milwaukee Brewers. When we return on State of the State here on Toss, we've got to talk to Green Bay Packers. What's going on with them? They have a preseason game set already. We'll get into detail about that. And there may be a rival coming to play for us. We'll get more into that. And we're also going to talk NCAA basketball. What are the state teams? How are they? What are they doing? Who has the best chance to make it to March Madness? We're going to talk about all of that when State of the State on Toss continues. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show is the Toss Facebook page. It's the place you can find each and every single topic we don't cover here on the show. So if you want a few more bits, a few more bites, a few more anecdotes and tidbits from yours truly, then go to Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. Welcome back to Toss, everybody. It is your friendly neighborhood T-Squared, Tristan Thomas here, and we are going on a hour-long, or close to an hour-long, however long I decided to do this show. It is State of the State, all Wisconsin teams. We're talking about them because we have so much to talk about. So we want to get in depth on them and show those guys some love because it is the great state of Wisconsin that we live in. So let's continue here on the State of the State here on Toss, and we have to talk the Green Bay Packers. Now, for the past 2 weeks, I've started out the Green Bay Packers segment by saying, what can you possibly be talking about as far as the Green Bay Packers go when their season and football season is over? Look, there's always something going on with this team. There's always something going on in the NFL. We're gearing up the new league year, March 9th. That's going to get even more rampant. Free agency is going to start. We're going to start seeing some moves. Packers are making some moves. They re-signed LaTroy Guion, 3 years, $11.75 million. Pretty decent deal. He's a year younger than B.J. Raji, who still does not have a deal and may not be coming back to Green Bay. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Casey Hayward is another free agent on that defense. But you're really deep at that cornerback position, so who knows if he'll be back or not. If he isn't, you feel good with what you have there. You have Sam Shields on one side, Demarius Randall on the other side, Micah Hyde down there in the slot. You feel good with where Gunter. You got a couple other guys there. They're really deep at that cornerback position. They really have gotten really good play from all of those guys when they've been given the opportunity. So you have to feel good with where they are as far as defensive free agency goes. I mentioned before we hit the break that they have a preseason date already, and that was announced today or a couple of days ago, whenever it was announced. Bottom line, it was announced that the Packers will be facing the Indianapolis Colts August 7th at the Hall of Fame game. We mentioned this on Toss last week that they would be playing in the Hall of Fame game because obviously Brett Favre is getting enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So obviously you have to have the Green Bay Packers there with the headliner of the entire weekend getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. The Colts are there because they have two of their own going into the Hall of Fame, and the great Tony Dungy. Congratulations. Also Marvin Harrison. Congratulations. Two Colts greats that are now Pro Football Hall of Fame greats. So congrats to those guys as well. So you got those two head up. Really interesting point here is the fact that they're going up against them in the preseason at the Hall of Fame game. They'll also face those guys in the regular season because the Packers played the AFC South as well as the NFC East this season. As records stand right now, the Packers have the easiest schedule in the NFL, playing up against those two divisions. And we spoke about this weeks ago on Toss. Seems like a lifetime ago. You know how I feel about those two divisions. They're awful. It's the AFC soft and the NFC least. Will they shape up to be that way this season? Who knows? I really don't see anything changing much. But they will be facing off with those guys again in the regular season once that starts, playing the AFC South and the NFC East this season. I don't like the fact that they're playing in this Hall of Fame game. And it's not the fact that they're playing in a Hall of Fame game, because that is it's an honor. You're going to be there with pro football greats, and you get to sit down and talk to them, interact with them, pick their brain, listen to stories from them, just really sit under the learning tree. I don't like it because they still have to play their 4-game preseason slate. So in addition to the 4 games you're already scheduled for preseason, you have to play one more. We mentioned this on Toss last week. The Vikings played in a Hall of Fame game last year, and they had to play 5 preseason games. I do not like that. That should go down as one of your preseason games, whether it be on the road, neutral site, whatever. That should go down as one of your preseason games with you having 3 remaining. You're just asking for guys to get hurt. This is extra reps that they have to take because there's extra practice, extra walkthrough. Now you have an extra game worth of game action, and it's not even regular season action. It's preseason. So I don't like that. It should go down as one of your preseason games. You would think the NFL would learn this and fix this, but they're too damn hard-headed for their own good. It's all about the cash grab, less about the guys' health. I don't like this. Who will Mike McCarthy play? I don't know how he's going to manage their reps. Who knows? I'm hoping he holds out a lot of the veterans so you can make it to the regular season healthy, which I think Mike McCarthy is smart enough, and he'll do that. But he'll also have to balance that with, okay, we have a roster to put together. Who's going to make this team? Who's making the biggest splash in game action and not just training camp and practice? It's a tough balancing act, but I don't like this 5 preseason game deal when you have to play in a Hall of Fame game. I don't like it. It's not conducive to anything good. And I know they can go down in any game. They can go down to practice. They can go down walking onto the practice field. Injuries can happen anywhere. But when you purposely put those guys out there for 5 preseason games, I don't like that. I don't like that. But they are in the Hall of Fame game. We'll obviously all be tuning in because that's what we are as Packers fans. We're rabid. We're going to watch everything that they do. Let's talk front office right now. Let's get to Ted Thompson. Now, we all know he's a little bit tight with the purse strings. We know this. He does not like to dip into free agency as much as maybe some other GMs do. And I've gone over this before. I don't have a problem with that when you're drafting and developing and it's working. But when you have a strong need that no draftee can fill, and you have the means to go out and go after a veteran that can instantly help you because they've been there, done that, and they can be productive, and you just decide not to do that, that's when I have a problem with it. Now, make no mistake about it. When Ted Thompson has dipped into free agency, he's usually been successful. Charles Woodson, Ryan Pickett, Julius Peppers are 3 guys that he dipped. People forget about Cedric Benson. People forget about that one. Cedric Benson was a good pickup. He just got hurt and didn't come back for the rest of that season. He was a very good pickup, but just got hurt and couldn't really, you can't produce when you're hurt and you're out. So that was another good pickup. So when he dips into free agency, it's usually a very underrated pickup, but it usually turns out to be a very, very good pickup. Well, he has $24 million to play around with. He's already signing some of his own free agents. Again, Guyon got signed. We know Mike Daniels got signed while the season was still going on. So he's signing his guys. That's not the problem. What is he going to do with that $24 million of cap space that he has? Now, if you are on Instagram, you know, or if you're just an NFL fan, period, you know that the Bears are not going to re-sign Matt Forte. They've made that very clear to him. They've told him that. He went on to social media and revealed that. So he's going to be a free agent when the new league year starts, March 9th. I think that is a logical fit for the Green Bay Packers. Now, I'm not saying that just because he's Matt Forte. Okay, it's not a name thing. It's because he fits what the Green Bay Packers want to do offensively to a T. Let me explain this to you. He is a very good zone scheme runner. Very good. One cut and go. He's not with all the dancing. He's one cut, go, cut it upfield. He can run you over. He can run right through you. He can run around you. He can do it all. He's a very good pass catcher, which works into the Packers' screen game, which is something they used to be kings of. They used to be the kings of the screen pass. And you saw in recent years when Eddie Lacy was in shape and had his head screwed on right, he was a big factor in the screen game. Even this year, there's a couple of screen passes that he's able to catch. He's made some moves on. James Starks, the same thing. Matt Forte would be a huge asset in the playing game because the Bears will split him out wide. You could possibly split him out wide. Screen game would be phenomenal with this guy. And he really doesn't need to be an every down back. Can you imagine a 1-2 punch with he and Eddie Lacy? Both of those guys, maybe Matt Forte getting 12 to 15 touches. Eddie Lacy getting in the 15 to 17 touches to keep those guys fresh for down the stretch when you really need them. This is almost it makes too much sense that you just may be wishful thinking. But I would love to see him on the Green Bay Packers because I think he would be an absolute asset on this ball club, to this offense. That would make you that much more dangerous. Eddie Lacy and Matt Forte coming out of the backfield. Now, I know we all love James Starks. We do. And there's no guarantee that they're going to re-sign him. But Matt Forte is available. You have the cap space. You've seen what he can do. He's a natural fit for your offense. Will Ted Thompson go after him? Will he take that splash into free agency to go and get him? I think this may be a wishful thinking thing, but how can you not? Everything that I just listed, how can you not go after him? You have the book on him. You face him 2 times a year, sometimes 3 when you go into the playoffs. You face this guy a ton. You know what he can do. Why not just go and get him? You know he can be an asset to your defense. Yes, your offense. Yes, I know he's 30 years old, but he has a ton of juice left. He doesn't have to be an every down back. You can put him in a lot of passing situations. You can use him to spell Eddie Lacy when Eddie Lacy comes back in shape. This is a logical fit. And Ted Thompson being a logical guy, you would think he would logically make this logical decision. But again, we may all be wishful thinking about that one. So we're going to keep an eye on that. We're going to keep an eye on free agency and see what Ted Thompson decides to do with this $24 million worth of cap space. But man, could you imagine him making that move? What a phenomenal move that would be. That would definitely help your offense. And you're going to need more than a healthy Jordan Nelson to help upswing this offense. So we'll keep an eye on those moves there with the $24 million in cap space. But you got to make that move. It's so logical. Let's get on to NCAA basketball in the state of Wisconsin. There is no team hotter in this state as far as Division I than the UW Badger men. They've won 7 straight games. They're 16-9 overall. They're 8-4 in the Big Ten. Those 7 straight wins is the current longest conference winning streak. They're 5th in the Big Ten. They beat Maryland, the number 2 team in America, 70-57 this past Saturday. And we all seen what dumb Diamond Stone did. Sidebar. How does he not get kicked out of that game? Explain to me how in football, if you make any kind of contact to a player's head, they consider it targeting, and you are kicked out for the remainder of that game and the first half of the next game. So explain to me how in basketball, where you see a guy blatantly pretty much dribble another guy's head off the floor, and you don't kick him out immediately right there and then. Big Ten officiating, folks, they will always find a way to take a dump on the bed. Doesn't matter what sport it is. So Maryland had to come in and suspend Dumb Diamond Stone. And of course, the Big Ten comes out with a press release. Oh yeah, we support this move. Well, why didn't you make the move to begin with? It just makes me mad. But enough talking about the Big Ten. Okay, let's stop talking about the Big Ten officials because we know they're dumb. They're just as dumb as Diamond Stone. Okay, we know this. 16-9 overall, 8-4 in the Big Ten, 7 straight wins overall. They are building a resume for March. They have the 16th toughest schedule in all of America, and they are 16-9 as a result right now. They went through a coaching transition from Bo Ryan, who is probably going to be a basketball Hall of Famer, to Greg Gard. The turmoil of getting out to a slow start has had some awful losses at home to begin the season. Just some absolutely sickening losses against teams that they should have blown out of the water within the first 5 minutes. Some people feel that those losses are going to come back to haunt them. I, for one, don't believe that. When you play the 16th toughest schedule in America, all right, so you're top 20, top 25 and toughest schedules, all right? So it's not like you're going out playing all cupcakes. You're playing some tough teams. That's going to get you somewhere. When you beat the number 2 team in America, you beat a ranked Syracuse team and a couple other ranked teams, that's going to get you somewhere. They have Michigan State this Thursday on the road. If they can go and knock those guys off, then I believe there is no question whatsoever they get in. Right now, Joey Brackett's, Joe Lunardi from ESPN, has them as one of the last 4 teams in. Before the win at Maryland on Saturday, they were one of the first 4 teams out. I think if they can get this win against Michigan State, I say they are firmly in. That doesn't mean that they can go and tank the rest of the season. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't make a good showing in the Big Ten tournament when that comes around in a few weeks. But they are absolutely building a resume for March. The emergence of Nigel Hayes, him coming out of his slumber, playing extremely well. He's led this team since conference play started. He's been fantastic since conference play began. He has to continue doing what he's doing because this team goes as he goes. You thought maybe it would be as Bronson Koenig goes, they would go, but no. As Nigel Hayes goes, they go. Vito Brown has been a nice surprise. He's came in and contributed. They have a very good squad, and they're really getting acclimated to what Greg Gard wants. And you're really starting to see that, especially with the 7-game winning streak, and you're beating some of the top teams in the nation on their home court. So they are really making a great case for March. And quite frankly, they may be the only team in Wisconsin that gets into the NCAA tournament. All right, because let's take a look at everybody else. Marquette got off to a scorching 10-2 start. I mean, I was just absolutely impressed with the way they were playing. And I was just, man, they can go deep, man. They keep playing like this. This might be the team in the bracket nobody wants to see. But then they promptly have now dropped down to 16-10. They're 5-8 in the Big East. I believe that's good enough for 8th place. They're not going to make it. They would have to go and win the Big East tournament in order to make it. I don't think they're going to make it. It's really a disappointing turn of events, especially after how they started. I mean, they got out to a hard start, 10-2. And you thought, man, they're firmly in at this point. Not anymore. They're going to have to go and win that conference tournament to win that. UW Milwaukee, another team that got off to a decent start. Now they're 7-7 in the Horizon League, 16-11 overall. They had a good win. They ain't going into the tournament. That's another team that's going to have to win the Horizon League tournament. I mean, that's just been kind of the way UWM has been the past few seasons. I mean, at least they're not under 500. You know, like when they won the Horizon League tournament, like at least they're not under 500 this time. They're 16-11. They're at 500 in conference play, but it's not really the season that you were kind of looking for from them. UWGB, also 16-11, except they have a 1-game. They're up 1 game on the Panthers in the Horizon League. They're 8-6 in conference play. That's another team that was probably going to have to win their conference tournament to make it in because their resume is not good. So 16-10 for Marquette, 16-11 for UW Milwaukee, 16-11 for UW Green Bay. Now, I think I can sit here and say with all confidence that, and how crazy is that? All Wisconsin teams have 16 wins. How crazy is that? So I think that the Badgers are a more impressive 16-win team because of the teams that they have beaten and the arenas in which they've beaten them at. They are the only team that will get in without winning their conference tournament. I'm calling it now. Obviously, you will love to get that one against Michigan State this Thursday on the road. If you can knock them off, I say they are firmly in the tournament field. They are no longer on the bubble. They are firmly in that field if they go and get that win. Again, that doesn't mean you go and take the rest of the season. That doesn't mean that you don't go and make an impressive showing in the Big Ten tournament. But if you get this one, I say they're in. We'll see what Joey Brackett's got to say because he's a little bit better at it than I am. So that's the state of the state. The Badgers are going to be the lone NCAA team that doesn't have to win their conference tournament to get in. The Packers, 5 preseason games because they're playing in the Hall of Fame game this August 7th against the Indianapolis Colts, who they will also see in the regular season. Ted Thompson has $24 million to play with. Matt Forte needs to happen. He's a free agent. The Bears are not signing him. He's a logical fit for the Green Bay Packers, so we need to make that happen. The Brewers, dealing Dave Stearns, has finally shown his vision for this ball club. It's going to be good pitching, good defense, on base, good hitting. That is what we need. And the Milwaukee Bucks still don't have any vision or direction whatsoever. Michael Carter-Williams may be gone before Thursday or on Thursday. We may have Jeff Teague. We may have Ty Lawson. They pulled all the other guys off of the trading block. He's the only one out there. But what's the point of making a trade when you don't have any kind of vision to go through? It's really a state of flux for those guys. But that is the state of the state. On toss. All right, y'all, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This has been Toss episode 22, State of the State. The entire show, State of the State, because we had to get in and talk about everybody here in the state because we live in a lovely state. We had to show them some love for the entire show. You know my Twitter, at the20double. That's at the20double on Twitter. Debates of tweets of live games, debates, controversy, good conversation, whatever you got, bring it. I'm there at the20double on Twitter. You know the Facebook page, facebook.com/T-On Sports Show. That's T-O-N Sports Show. We touch on every single topic that we don't talk about here on that page. So go ahead and check us out there. We are available on iTunes and Stitcher and Libsyn. That's Toss Show, TOSSSHOW.Libsyn, LIBSYN.com. That is where you can find each and every single episode of Toss ever made. So go ahead, catch up from 1 to 21. 1 through 22 now because this is episode 22. So go ahead, check us out there, TOSSSHOW.LIBSYN.com. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is T-Squared, Tristain Thomas, reminding all of you that dreams don't catch themselves. Get up, get out, and get after it. Until next week, so long from Toss.